Gentlemen, what is going on today? My name is Ryan Mickler. I'm the host and the founder of the Order of Man podcast and movement. Welcome here and welcome back. I'm just getting back from being gone for about a week and a half. I was hunting with some good friends of mine in Minnesota and was successful. I had 3 tags. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to fill all 3. I could only fill 2. So my buck is out there in Minnesota, still wandering around waiting for me next year, hopefully. But did have a couple of buddies get their tags filled. So all in all, it was a successful hunt. And I am glad to be back into and behind the microphone so I can share these podcasts with you because I do enjoy doing it. Obviously, we've been going strong for 7 years now, and I don't have any plans of quitting or stopping anytime soon. So I'm glad you're here. I wanted to talk with you guys today about the reason that it's so important that we put forth effort towards our objectives while we minimize the expectation that we have of achieving that objective. And that might sound a little counterintuitive, so I'll explain in a minute. Before I do, want to mention that I've got my new book, The Masculinity Manifesto, that is out and available. If you have picked up a copy of the book for yourself or somebody else, I want to say thank you for doing that. That means a lot to me. The support is crucial, and I am grateful for you. If you would please leave a rating or a review on Amazon or wherever you got your book, and that helps boost up the visibility and get this book into more people's hands. So it's called The Masculinity Manifesto. If you haven't picked up a copy yet, please do wherever you get your books. We have the hardcover, we have the electronic copy or version, and we have the audio version. Again, The Masculinity Manifesto. All right, guys, let's talk about effort without expectation. I took some notes here that I wanted to make sure that I address. So, first, I want to explain why it's so important that we put forth effort without this expectation thing getting in the way. And then I'm going to help you to understand the best way to put forth effort without having those expectations in place. So let's talk about why we need to do this in the first place. Well, the reason is because false expectations tend to hinder results. So if you're placing a bunch of expectations around what you're going to achieve by doing a thing, it's less likely that you're going to do it for any sustainable period of time. You're probably going to throw in the towel. And I'll tell you why. There's 3 main reasons. You can probably think of more. But number one is that there are unforeseen events in life, right? We just don't know what's going to happen. We saw this whole thing, this whole reaction to COVID. Nobody would have guessed that. And how many businesses went under? How many businesses have not recovered? How many businesses went out of business because of a response, a reaction to COVID that they had zero control over? There's all sorts of external variables at play that we just never really know what's going to happen. A lot of ways it's completely out of our hands. And so if we're doing things, whether it's trying to build relationships or grow a business or lose weight, there's all sorts of things that could inevitably derail you that you have no idea exist, that you have no idea are out there, that you have no idea that are looming, and it might come across and completely derail you. And if you knew that it was going to do that, well, you could do something about it, or maybe you would even throw in the towel to begin with. But the reason that we put forth effort is because it's the right thing to do. And even though we may not achieve our ultimate objective or desire, if we're doing the right thing, our life is going to improve and our life is going to get better. So again, false expectations, they're going to hinder achievement because number one, there's unforeseen events that happen and take place that you're just never going to be prepared for. Number two is other people have a say in the matter. So if you're doing something to win people over, well, what if you don't win them over? If you're doing something just to gain the approval or accolades or notoriety from other people, what if they never give you that validation? Are you going to throw in the towel? Well, if your motive was to get validity to what you're doing, to get acknowledgement, to get praise from other people, when they don't give that to you, and that happens quite often, when they don't give you what you want, then you end up throwing in the towel. So having the expectation of hoping that other people will give you what you desire and what you want is going to lead to inferior results. And then number 3 is that a lot of the times We just have faulty timelines. We just don't know. We overestimate our abilities. We underestimate how long it will take. We think it's going to take 2 months, and it might take 6 months or 12 months or 5 years. And if we have a faulty timeline about the things that we want to achieve, the relationships that we want to build, the businesses that we want to grow, the body that we want to develop, the skill set that we want to build in our lives, if we have a faulty timeline, what happens? Well, we quit. Right? If you thought it was going to take 6 months to build the body that you want, and you're realizing I can't do it in 6 months, and now it's looking like it's going to take 10 months or a year or 2 years, man, if you've built it on this faulty timeline, you're going to throw in the towel before you even give give yourself a chance to succeed. So we got to eliminate the expectation. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't at least consider what our actions are going to lead to, because they're going to lead to positive results if you're doing positive things. And we ought to do goals. We ought to set objectives. We ought to think about what it is that we want to accomplish. But at the end of the day, once we've worked backwards into the things that we needed to be doing on a daily basis, then we should just do those forever. That should become our new way of life. And yes, priorities change, external circumstances change, life changes, but doing the right thing is always going to be the right thing if they're principled approach to life, like working out, developing relationships, building skills, learning new information, calling customers and clients if you're trying to grow your business, learning how to market. All of these things are always going to serve you, and it becomes your way of life. So now that we've understood, at least to some degree, why false expectations hinder your achievement, again, it's because of unforeseen events that are going to take place. Other people have a say in the matter and our faulty timelines. Let's talk about 4 things that you can do to ensure that you keep yourself in the game. And that's the most important thing, because a lot of times men quit on whatever it is they want to do before they experience the result. And if they would have just stuck with it just a little bit longer, they would have achieved what they wanted to. So you have to keep yourself in the game, and you have to find ways to do it. Number 1, lengthen out the timeline for the things that you want to achieve. Okay. You have to lengthen out how long it's going to take. If you think, well, I'm going to build my 6-pack abs in the next 3 months, is it possible? Maybe, depending on where your level of fitness is. But what if instead of saying, hey, I'm going to build 6-pack abs in 3 months, is that you just thought to yourself, well, I'm going to build and maintain and keep myself under 10% body fat. And that was your goal and objective forever, not just for the beach, not just for the photo shoot, but forever. Hey, I'm going to do whatever I can to win this woman, this girl that I have my eyes set on and my heart set on. Well, what if instead of that, you thought to yourself, well, I'm going to do what I need to do to be the kind of man that attracts the kind of women that I want, and know that it's going to take place over a long and sustained period of time. And even when I find that one, I'm not going to stop doing what I was doing to begin with. It's a lifelong pursuit. So take the timeline from 90 days and start stretching it out, or 30 days and stretch it out to even longer. Now, I know that's a bit ironic, because I talk a lot about planning in 90-day segments, but where it's different is that I tell you to always start with a vision for the long-term type of man that you want to be. How does this man show up for himself? How does he show up for his wife? How does he show up for his kids? How does he show up in business? How does he show up for his friends and other people, those who are less fortunate? How does he show up? And that's a long-term perspective. And then we work in 90-day segments to move ourselves closer to the ideal version of ourselves. That's the difference. So number 1, again, lengthen out the timeline for achievement. And not only that, it'll give you an opportunity to achieve, because again, we underestimate how long it's going to take. All the time we do this, and we overestimate our abilities, and we forget about some of these unforeseen external circumstances as well. Number 2, shift your mindset from celebrating the achievement of that thing to the effort of that thing, the activity. So if you're thinking to yourself, well, I'd really like to lose 30 pounds, don't wait to celebrate till you lose 30 pounds. Celebrate today the fact that you got up early and you went into the gym and you worked out. That's what you should be celebrating. And then tomorrow you do the same thing. And tomorrow you do the same thing. And tomorrow you do the same thing. And so now you're actually focused on activity versus the result. If you're focused on the activity and you call that the win, we can just chalk up the result because it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. In fact, I've got a friend of mine who says that when he has a goal that he wants to obtain, he says it's already done. It's already written in stone. It just hasn't manifested itself yet. And that's the attitude that we need to have. It's already done that I'm going to lose 30 pounds. It's already done that I'm going to grow this business. It's already done that I'm going to fill in the blank with whatever you want. I just have to do the activity now to make that a reality. And I have to do it consistently every day, forever. Again, lengthening out that timeline. Number 3, go ahead and take a look at the past. I know this is counter to what a lot of self-help people will say, but they'll say, you don't need to dwell or look on the past. And that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying go ahead and look backwards from time to time and take notice of how far you've come. Because when you're doing the grinding, monotonous work of building a relationship or building a business or building your body, it takes time. And a lot of the times we don't even see the progress because it's so small. It's so small that we just can't see it. But when we stack it day after day after day after day, we may not even realize how far we've come. But if you just take a glance backwards real quick, just take a peek, man, you can see how much distance you traveled. Now, why is that important? Because it gives you some motivation. It gives you some inspiration. It gives you some fuel to keep going. Hey, look how far I've come in the last 3 months. Look how far I've gone in the last year. If I can do that in a year, man, what can I do in 2 years? And it might just be a little bit more fuel or motivation and inspiration to keep you in the game for the longest term possible. A lot of times people will reach out to me and say, hey, I'm going to start a podcast. What advice do you have? And, you're good at podcasting and you've been successful and you've had so many people on. And I love the praise. I got to admit, feels really good to know that people are inspired by what we're doing here. And a lot of the times these people are asking me for advice. And my single biggest piece of advice is to stay consistent. Just stay in it. If you can stay in it, you're going to learn about the technology. You're going to eventually make some money. You're going to be able to invest in new equipment that's going to improve the quality of a podcast. You're going to get yourself more known. You're going to ask a bunch of people. You're going to get referrals and connections to other people you want to have on the podcast. So the quality of men or people that are joining your podcast are going to improve. That just comes with time and deliberate, intentional action. But go ahead and take a look back every once in a while and say, man, I'm pretty proud of myself. I have come a very long way. And you should. Don't dwell on it. Don't dwell on the mistakes and all. No, don't dwell on it. Just look back from time to time and realize how far you've come. And the fourth component here, guys, and so many people overlook this and so many people even mock this, but you've got to hire coaches and mentors because they're going to help you have a realistic expectation of what it's going to take. Again, this goes back to the reasons why we need to put forth effort without expectations, because a lot of the times we just miss the mark. Our expectations are so far off the mark. I've got a trainer, Johnny Loretti, and I asked him, I said, hey, I want to build muscle. Here's how much, I didn't even tell him how much. I said, what's reasonable over the next 90 days? Because I don't know. He does. This is his profession. This is what he does for work. So he knows, but I don't. So we have to hire mentors and coaches, not only to give us a realistic expectation of what it takes, but to keep us in the game when we want to quit, when we're not experiencing the results as fast as we would like. We're not seeing what we want to see. Hire business coaches, hire fitness coaches, hire instructors and trainers and courses, and go to conferences and listen to people speak and invest time on YouTube, not dinking around, but looking at speeches that are inspiring you and teaching you new things and motivating you, because those are the people who are going to have a realistic expectation and a realistic timeline of what it's going to take to help you be a success. I know it's hard to put forth effort when you're not seeing the fruits of that. And that is life. That is life. At least it's been my life. When the disparity between where you want to go and where you are right now is large, you can start to see those results pretty quickly. But we have something called the law of diminishing returns. And over time, as you begin to bridge the gap between where you want to be and where you currently are, you begin to to narrow that gap, the results don't come as quickly, or they're not as large. So they're not as noticeable. And so that becomes a challenge, right? If you're 50 or 100 pounds overweight, you can lose a lot of weight today. But if you're 5 or 7 or 8 pounds overweight, that's going to take you a little bit more time. So keep yourself in the game. Keep yourself in the game forever, indefinitely, regardless of what's happening around you. One of my favorite quotes is the real man gains renown by standing between himself and his family, absorbing the blows of fate with equanimity. When I found that quote, I had to look up and ask what equanimity was, but it's calmness, it's clarity, it's focus, it's control. And that's what we need with our efforts. If our efforts are dictated by the expectation or the result, then we're going to be all over the place because there's so much beyond our control. But if you just figure out what the right thing to do is in any circumstance, and we all know for the most part what is right, and if we just do that without any expectation of anything in return, then your life will inevitably get better. It'll take time. There'll be ups and downs, but you, as a man, exhibit some equanimity, calmness, clarity, focus, control, regardless of what's happening around you. All right, guys, I hope that helps. Again, lengthen out the timeline, celebrate activity, not necessarily achievement. Look to the past, don't dwell on it. And number 4, hire coaches, mentors, courses, invest in yourself. All right, I hope that helps. Let me know if there's other ideas and concepts and things that you want to add to this or things that you'd like me to cover on future episodes. Hit me up on Instagram is where I'm most active at Ryan Mickler. And shoot me a message. I'm pretty quick and good to respond over there. And let's keep getting after it. All right, guys. We'll be back next week for an interview. But until then, go out there, take action, and become the man you are meant to be.